Now to Lebanon, because its government has approved a package of economic reforms. It's all part of an attempt to quell the country's biggest protests in years. In the last 5 days, we've seen hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets objecting to government corruption and to the high cost of living. And the measures being offered to try and placate them include new reforms to deal with Lebanon's huge deficit, slashing politicians' salaries and giving additional financial help to families below the poverty line. Here's the Prime Minister, Saad Hariri.
These decisions are not designed as a trade-off. They're not to ask you to stop expressing your anger. That's your decision to make, and no one gives you a time limit. If the early elections is your demand, then your voice will be the only decision maker, and I will personally support your demand.
Now, the protest started in Beirut on Thursday. That was when the government proposed a monthly tax on WhatsApp voice calls. That tax was quickly scrapped, but the unrest escalated nonetheless. Here's Martin Patience to explain why.
This was a country that fought a devastating civil war in the 1980s, and the way to end that war was a power-sharing agreement. Now, that cuts across a religious and sectarian lines. So basically, in Lebanon, you have politicians who represent religious groups. Now, they dominate political life, but where it breaks down is if, say, for example, you want a job in the bank and you're not Sunni or Shia or Christian, you perhaps won't get that job. And many will say, yes, that's kept the peace in Lebanon for the last 30 years, but what it's meant is you have a mentality of divide and conquer. So there's no national outlook. It's a very sectarian, everything is based on sectarian politics. What is right for the Sunni bloc, the Shia bloc, the Christian bloc. What the protesters on the ground are saying, enough of that. We've had enough of that. We need to look forward and move forward in terms of Lebanon itself. And that's what they're demanding. An end to the old way of doing politics here.
Now, the message of these protests is, of course, serious, but actually many of the protests have been upbeat. There have been fireworks. These are pictures from Sunday night. This is a DJ playing to a big crowd who are dancing, singing, chanting at times. Thousands turned out. This is Martyrs Square in Beirut. And despite the new reforms that have been announced, the protests are very much going on.